WRAL meteorologists kept you safe as severe storms whipped through our area. Town by town and even street by street, we tracked thunderstorm and tornado warnings for hours. Now we're dealing with the aftermath: damage, flooding, crashes, and power outages.
New information about the kidnapping of a 15-year-old girl in Harnett County and the 2 men arrested for the crime. How law enforcement say the events unfolded and how they tracked down the suspect's car.
Well, let's start with some good news. The wind advisory has expired. The tornado watch is gone. The weather alert day is officially over. So let's get that graphic out of there. Thanks for joining us at 7 o'clock. I'm Ashley Rowe.
I like that. I'm Dan Haggerty. Good to have you with us. The storm did pack a pretty good punch today, though, of course. The wind and the rain. We saw what it did. It knocked over trees like this in Raleigh. We saw some people in North Raleigh here helping to move that tree out of the road there. Some good teamwork. In Durham, power lines came down. This is Cannon Drive. Thousands of people in our area are still without power because of the storm tonight.
And check out the flooding in Fayetteville. Ramsey Street closed in both directions because of the floodwaters. Drivers had to go another way. Wilson saw some of the worst damage. We saw trees fall on people's homes, in their yards, and in the roads.
So Kat joins us now. The worst of it is out of the triangle, as we were saying, Kat, which is good. But there will be some lingering pieces of this system that could stick around a little while tonight.
Right. We're still going to be dealing with some gusty winds tonight. At the moment, winds are gusting 20 to 25 miles per hour. We could still see some stronger wind gusts over the next couple of hours. It's with the actual cold front itself that's swinging through, but nothing like the winds and all the rain that we had earlier today. That has cleared our area, and it's about to clear even out of the Outer Banks. For the most part, the worst has passed there. In the mountains tonight, as the cold air starts to move in, they're likely to see some snow flurries. We're not going to see any of that here, but the mountains will behind this system. So let's take a closer look at our storm reports today. We had several reports of wind damage. That's all these white dots that you see on the map. So we had 4 of those in Wake County. We also had a wind gust report right there of 63 miles per hour in Wilson County. Behind the front comes the much cooler air, 29 in Minneapolis. I'll let you know when our lows dip back down into the 30s again coming up.
All right, Kat, we'll talk to you then. Also, Kat mentioned where we saw some wind damage. One of those spots, we had Aaron Thomas there tonight in Wilson, where those wind gusts really picked up tonight, and a tree fell onto someone's home there, Aaron.
That's right, Dan. In fact, you have these apartments that are behind us here on Christopher Drive. Normally, we'd have people who'd be staying here for the evening, but that's certainly not the case. As you can see, these apartments here, they're completely blocked off with the crime scene tape. You can see this tree that came down. We actually had a chance to speak with one of the people who lives on this street. He was saying that he took a nap. He knew that the storms were coming, but he heard that tree crash through his bedroom upstairs, and when he got up there, he saw nothing but sky. That just tells you how powerful these straight line winds were in this area. You can also look on the ground here. You can see the several pieces of debris that's on the ground. And we've also had several viewers send in photos of flooding. So certainly this eastern part of our state really packed a punch and dealt with a lot of the damage from this particular storm. Of course, we'll be hearing from that gentleman who stays in one of these locations and what he's learned from this particular storm in the next weather event. We'll hear from him later tonight at 10 on Fox 50. Aaron Thomas, WRAL News, live in Wilson.
Here in the WRAL Live Center, getting some new video from the city of Rocky Mount about some of the damage they've been dealing with this afternoon and evening. Take a look at that video of them trying to clean up some roof damage there. They say that several trees have been knocked down in those storms earlier today, and the cleanup process continues. We're also getting a lot of pictures from you, from what you saw during today's storm. This is from Tracy and Shane Sanborn in Wilson, and you can see where the neighbor's trampoline got pushed into their fence as those high winds came through. A reminder, whenever you see anything newsworthy, don't forget us. Go to WRAL.com/report it. You can send us your pictures and videos.
A good reminder, Brian. Thank you. Also a good reminder, don't forget to download that free WRAL News app. Get you the latest news updates and the many weather tools that we have on there at your disposal, and you can use these, of course, wherever you are.
Tonight, we learned the Harnett County girl at the center of an Amber Alert last month was talking with her captors on Instagram. WRAL's Willie Danley has been going through the arrest warrant released today. Willie, it also says license plate readers led to the arrests.
Yes, Ashley, officials used flock cameras to locate that 15-year-old girl. As you said, she was communicating with one of the two men who have been charged on Instagram prior to her kidnapping in February. Take a look at this. These are photos of Elihu Martin Mahler and Austin Lee Cole. Both men have been charged and arrested with kidnapping and human trafficking. Those arrest warrants included a search warrant for Mueller's DNA. Officials shared information about how they located the victim. Law enforcement used flock cameras to track the car and locate the 15-year-old who was found in Dare County along the North Carolina coast in what officers describe as fair condition. The warrant showed Cole and the victim spoke back and forth on Instagram, eventually arranging for Mueller to pick her up outside of her Spring Lake home on February 25th. Some of those messages include Cole telling the victim to delete all of the messages before coming outside of the home. I spoke to John Webster from the Child Advocacy Center. He tells me it's important for parents to know what their kids are up to online.
Parents need to be looking. I think there needs to be they're probably paying the bill for their kid's phone. And so I think a parent has a right to look and see what they're looking at, what sites they're going on to. I think, also a lot of this happens late at night. Kids go to bed and parents go to bed and things happen.
Webster tells me it's never too young to teach children online safety, and it's better to get ahead of the problem before something like this happens.
Yeah, you got to have those conversations. Willie, what about the two men charged in this case? What's next for them?
Well, Ashley, they're being held on a $5 million bond, and their next court appearance is scheduled here at the Harnett County Courthouse on March 11th.
All right, I know you'll continue to follow that. Willie Danley, thank you.
Let's talk about some of the other big headlines from today. These are the 5 things that you should know right now. The same storm that came through our area actually produced a tornado in the Charlotte area. The National Weather Service saying an EF1 touched down in Union County. They say it was on the ground for about 2 miles. Fortunately, nobody was hurt. Today, students at Athens Drive High School got out of class early because of a water issue there in the school building. Wake County Schools says the high school released at 1 p.m. because of this. They haven't said if it was related to the storm, though, today. We can say that fewer flu cases are popping up in North Carolina hospitals. That's a good update, don't you think? They accounted for less than 5% of ER visits last week. That is the 3rd straight week we have seen a decline. The CDC says flu season has likely peaked.
Cumberland County is hitting the pause button on construction of a major $145 million event center. The Board of Commissioners is taking the next 30 days to allow an outside legal team to review the project. The board chairman says they want to know more about the scope of the work. The review will help them figure out if any changes to the project are needed. State lawmakers are moving forward with a plan to invest the state pension plan into crypto. Just last night, we were telling you how they didn't think they knew enough about crypto to do this. That same committee pulled a 180 and approved it. The idea still needs a full House vote to be official. North Carolina's Senate is taking a page out of President Trump's book. They have a new bill that would ban any discussion on DEI or systematic racism in public schools. And we're not just talking about elementary school students, we're talking about high schoolers too. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie has the details.
The bill would prohibit any public schools in North Carolina from teaching what it refers to as divisive concepts. It would also ban any teacher training involving DEI or implicit bias. Supporters of the bill say it's meant to ensure dignity and non-discrimination in North Carolina schools. But critics say it's not clear who defines what's divisive, and that could leave teachers potentially at risk. Senator Michael Lee said he's not against diversity, equity, and inclusion as values. What he's opposed to is the way he believes they're being implemented in schools.
Essentially telling a student they have to feel a certain way because they have a certain, from a certain country or because of their race.
Lee said his bill spells out what qualifies as a divisive concept, like making students feel discomfort or distress because of their race or sex. He said the bill specifically protects the teaching of history and civil rights. But Senator Woodson Bradley says the bill isn't clear about who defines divisive.
Who's going to adjudicate this? Who's the judge and jury of whether the student's been affronted? Did the teacher make a mistake? What does this mean for the district? That's a really big question.
Lee said it's up to students or families with complaints to take action.
Citizens can go like they do now when certain school districts are violating the law and report that to their school boards. They can also report that to DPI.
Senator Caleb Tedros said it's not clear whether any schools are even teaching any of the concepts the bill would ban. But he said it's a culture war talking point for Republicans.
This is essentially the reason why we're seeing it. There's no specificity in the bill. There's no sort of appeals process, review process. There's no implementation. And so it did great in the election. Therefore, they're trying to use some of that momentum here.
I asked the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction whether they know of any school districts that actually have DEI programs in place or whether they do any teacher training that involves DEI. Spokesman Mark Desauer got back to me saying, no, DPI does not offer any training that involves DEI, and they're not aware of any school districts that have programs because that's not something the school districts have to report to the state as of the moment. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, Raleigh.
We've got a fresh executive order coming out of the White House this week, and it touches one of North Carolina's biggest industries. We're talking about timber. The president wants to expand the industry, cut down more trees. We're going to talk about it after the break.
And what's going on with UNC football players' uniforms? No logos, no names, no numbers. Just Belichick being Belichick, I guess. We're going to take you to spring practice just ahead. Well, it's only Wednesday. It's Wednesday, right?
It's Wednesday.
Yeah, it's only Wednesday. I got that right. And this week has been chock full of updates to some of President Trump's executive orders.
Yeah, here at 7 o'clock, we are doing our best to help you keep up. So let's get you up to speed today.
Order up.
First up, Order 1410. This one is about implementing the federal worker cuts recommended by Elon Musk and Doge.
So today we learned that the Department of Veterans Affairs will cut more than 80,000 jobs. It's part of a larger reorganization there. The VA's chief of staff said the goal is to return to the staffing levels that they were seeing in 2019, which is just under 400,000. Next up is Order 14169. This is the one that gutted USAID, cutting 90% of the agency's contracts worth around $54 billion. At least that was the plan.
Yes, today the U.S. Supreme Court rejected these efforts. The justices ruled 5-4 that the Trump administration must unfreeze those dollars because they were approved by Congress. The court did not say when the funds must be released. A lower court could decide that part. Okay, now here's a 2-for-1. Order 14193 and 14194. You know them as the tariffs placed on Mexico and Canada.
So today, President Trump granted American car makers a 1-month exemption from these tariffs. This applies to Ford, GM, and Stellantis. Wall Street responded to that with a bit of a sigh of relief, responding to the news by adding back a few points to Tuesday's huge drop that we saw in the market. There's one more order that we want to talk about because it will have a direct impact on North Carolina's economy.
These all have fancy names. This one is called the Immediate Expansion of American Timber Production. It says onerous federal policies have forced our nation to rely upon imported lumber, and it is vital that we reverse these policies and increase domestic timber production. The order calls on a handful of departments to come up with a plan. The goal is to issue new guidance that will increase timber production, reduce delivery times, speed up approval of new forestry projects, and set production goals for the next 4 years.
Well, why is this a big deal for us? Well, because forestry and logging account for about 2% of North Carolina's total economic output, which is huge. In 2022, it contributed nearly $26 billion, one of the top manufacturing sectors that we have in the entire state. The industry also employs about 74,000 people. The American Loggers Council loves this executive order. They say it will, quote, restore the health of U.S. forests and support the domestic timber and forest products industries. The group's executive director, Scott Dane, talked about this on Fox News. The Carolina Loggers Association, based in Henderson, cheered him on Facebook, posting, "Great job, Scott."
Meantime, the Dogwood Alliance thinks this is a bad idea. They're an environmental conservation organization based in Asheville. Their executive director, Dana Smith, told Inside Climate News, standing forests are vital to fighting the climate crisis. This is absolutely the wrong direction and a devastating blow. No surprises here, really, on either side, right? You probably figured that's how these groups would respond.
Right, the environmental groups probably won't like it. The timber industry will like it very much. Do with that what you will, but at least now you know what this order is all about.
Kat, you have had a busy afternoon in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. Things finally calming down.
And tomorrow, it's going to be a blustery day, but there won't be any storms, and it'll be a little cooler outside. So just a heads up as you're getting dressed in the morning, send your kids to school with an extra layer. Good sweater weather tomorrow, especially because it's going to be windy. 55 isn't bad in the sun, but with the wind picking up like that, you'll want the long sleeves and the extra layer with you. 58 in Fayetteville, 52 in Roxborough tomorrow. We'll be partly cloudy, but I think we'll see more sun later in the day. It is going to be another pretty windy day. Not as bad as today, of course, with those storms. By noon, though, we're seeing winds gusting up to about 30 miles per hour. And throughout the afternoon, I would say noon to 5 o'clock is when we'll see the strongest winds tomorrow. The good news is the fire risk should be much lower since the rainfall overproduced today. We've got the Canes game tomorrow at 7 o'clock. You can watch it right here at this time tomorrow on WRAL. We can't wait. 6 o'clock, if you're tailgating, don't bother with the tailgate tent. Too windy for that, and you're going to want the sun for as long as you can get it to help keep you warm. 49 degrees. We'll be in the 40s at puck drop, and then by 10 o'clock, just 41. So we cool off. Make sure you've got your layer with you. 64 degrees outside right now. A nice clear sky after a very active day. We still have some gusty winds passing through, and our temperature at midnight is going to be in the mid-50s, and that may kind of tie for the high all day long tomorrow. We'll struggle to get up into the mid-50s tomorrow afternoon. 20s, 30s. That's what's coming. This air is moving in behind our cold front. It moves in tonight, really settling in tomorrow and tomorrow night. 21, our current wind gust in Raleigh, still gusting to 33 miles per hour in Boone, and some winds gusting around 25 miles per hour at the coast, but not too bad. And luckily, the winds that moved through the Triad earlier this evening weren't quite as strong by the time they got here. For tomorrow, we could see winds gusting to about 30 miles per hour. Friday, some 20 mile per hour gusts possible. Saturday, winds could gust 25 to 30 miles per hour again. If you were stuck inside much of the day today and couldn't get out for a nice long dog walk, I know I owe mine. Some walks tomorrow. 8 a.m. It's 44 degrees by noon. We're at 50, mid-50s during the afternoon. Tomorrow night, we are going to be cooling down, though. The 30s are coming right back to this 7-day forecast. So a little bit more of an up and down coming our way, but it's not going to be as drastic as some of those ups and downs that we've seen over the past couple of weeks. As low as we go is 35. That'll be tomorrow night into Friday morning. Friday, our warming wind kicks back in at 61. Saturday looks pretty nice still, just a 20% chance for rain. 70 degrees the high. Rain chances aren't set in stone on Sunday yet. There's a chance, but it's not guaranteed. So stay tuned for updates on that. We spring forward this weekend, and then next week it's going to be mild, 60s, 70s, feeling like spring, and you get to enjoy it with those later sunsets.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
It's really going to be nice. It's a nice treat following what, has just not been all that pleasant. We had the snow. I couldn't believe that we were having severe weather with snow not that long ago, and here we were today with a chance of tornadoes.
Well, Kat, you always say, if you don't like the weather this week, just wait a week.
Just wait a week. Next week, this time, mid-70s, sunshine. It'll be really nice. There you
Kat
go.
always knows. She knows what to say. Thanks, Kat.
Thanks, Kat. Hey, we are on Belichick Watch in Chapel Hill. Spring practice is underway, and the new head coach is using some of his old tricks. That's tonight's One Last Thing after the break.
All righty, one last thing to talk about with you tonight. Chapel Hill Bill, or Chapel Bill, or whatever we're calling him nowadays. Bill Belichick, you know him. Just wrapped up the first news conference as Carolina's new head football coach.
Yeah, spring practice is underway. He's got the team practicing. And this was something that you noticed in blank jerseys. So here he is walking around the practice field. And look closely, the players still have on Carolina blue, but no names, no numbers, no logos. Belichick says this is something that he did in New England. It's about making the players earn their spot on the team.
The numbers and what color gloves we wear and all that's not as important as doing your job and being responsible and accountable to your teammates and being a good teammate. And so our focus is on the team, and we're just all out there working, practicing, trying to get better. And it's coaches, players, all of us. And so it's not all about individual notoriety right now. It's about trying to put together a team.
It might not seem like a big deal, but it kind of is one of the first little signs of his own personal stamp on the way he's doing things. And as WRAL sports investigative sports reporter Brian Murphy says, that's just Belichick being Belichicky, as the way he puts it. That's kind of his vibe.
Hey, a little housekeeping note. You're not going to catch us here at 7 o'clock tomorrow. The Carolina Hurricanes are playing on WRAL, so you'll be seeing them play instead. And
it's an important one. It's a battle for a spot in the Stanley Cup. Both teams are in the hunt. The Canes are taking on the Boston Bruins. You can watch that game tomorrow right here at 7 o'clock on WRAL. Have a great night.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.